All right. Are we ready? Welcome to the San Juan School District Board of Education meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 4th, and it is 3:09 p.m. In attendance, we have board members Ron Nelson, Colleen Bonelli, myself, Nan Barton, and Nelson Yellowman is on virtually, Superintendent Fitzgerald, Business Administrator Tyrell Pemberton, and other San Juan School District staff. Thank you for joining us. Our first item is to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for March 4th, 2025.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have anything, at least in chat, from Nelson?
It's okay, you have a quorum, so you can move forward.
Is that enough? Okay. That's, all right, we will move to the first item on the agenda, which is the spotlight report on instructional coaches.
Okay, so I'm excited to just speak a little bit about our instructional coaching in San Juan School District. So we have 3 full-time coaches. So one is provided through USBE to support Savannah Sky Elementary, Montezuma Creek Elementary, and kindergarten through 3rd grade, and that's Amanda Lincoln. And then SJSD has also provided a coach for us through funding through USBE, and that is Anna Hart. And then we also have Monique McDermott, who is half a technology coach and half EL coach. So she's working in all of our schools, all elementary and secondary. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit of the work they're doing, because you're seeing, as data comes in, you're seeing the results that we're having. Also, when you consider the CKLA implementation, they're a key component of that adoption. This is our first year adoption for our elementary language arts curriculum. And they really are using a coaching model. So they help with looking at data to drive instruction. They do a coaching cycle that includes observation, feedback, and meeting with teachers in whatever area they want to work on. They've been extremely helpful when we think about some of our newer teachers coming in and getting on that one-on-one support right in the classroom. Monique has also been working with Jolynn Torgerson from SESC on technology initiatives, and they go in, they call it the Joe and Mo initiative, I guess, and they go in and help. They've been working with Navajo Mountain on going in and modeling how to use some of the technology, and then supporting teachers to be able to implement that, as well as really integrating ML supports, the English language learner supports in our classroom. So just really wanted to highlight the amazing work that they've been doing and the impact they're having in supporting our schools.
Can you speak to us a little bit about what that graph that we had attached, what that means?
Yeah, I attached that because this is some research on instructional coaching. This was provided by Anna Hart. I think it's really interesting when you look at how do we really support teachers to implement in the classroom, because it's not just about a teacher learning it, it's about using it in the classroom for student outcomes. So if you look at the different types of learning, it could be theory and discussion, demonstration and training, where they're kind of modeling for them in a training, practice and feedback in training. But really the one that has the biggest impact for use in the classroom is that coaching in the classroom. And I think that's partially because you really get to see what does that look like? What does that look like in my actual classroom with the students that I have in front of me? So it's just one of the best ways to really implement what we're working on in the classroom with supports.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is a request for a letter of support. And I think we have Ryan Benali on virtually right now. Is that okay? So do you want to speak to that first, or just let him introduce? Okay,
Jump right in.
we're ready for you.
Okay, all right. Well, firstly, thank you for giving us the time and consideration for being on the agenda for the school board meeting this evening. I'm Ryan Denali. I'm with Utah State University Extension. My office is there at the county seat in Monticello, Utah. So a lot of the programming that we do for the benefit of communities are run out of the office. And I'm joined with my colleague here.
My name is Lee Palmer. I manage the SNAP Ed program for the state. So we have different programming in each county and working with faculty like with Ryan to do nutrition education in each of the counties.
And thank you. One of the programs that we facilitate in the county, as Lee mentioned, is the SNAP Ed program under USU Extension. It extends to all the counties in Utah, as well as San Juan. What the program is meant to do is help to kind of implement some education, health nutrition education, I should say, for community members for positive impacts to kind of help stave off on a preventative level for things like chronic conditions, obesity, issues with heart disease, and many of those things. I myself have, with the, of course, the permission of the school administrators, placed myself in a number of classes, health education classes in the county, just kind of relating some of that research-based health nutrition education, just as an example. Why we're here on today is that we are trying to implement a community needs assessment under Create Better Health. And we're going through a number of protocols, one of them being the Navajo Nation Human Research IRB protocol. And with respect, one of the things is that we also, it asks of us to kind of get support from, the chapters, the local chapters, as well as the agency meetings. And one of the things that specifically asks is if we could, it recommends and highly recommends that we get a supporting letter from like the local school district, hence San Juan School District as well, which is why, we're respectfully requesting a letter of support. As for the community needs assessment, it's meant to kind of help provide better services for the work that we do in San Juan County for the residents on and off the reservation, for people with all in all spans of their development, whether it be primary aged, adolescents, or adults, or elderly, which is what the program is meant to provide. That necessary health education. So the community needs assessment is meant to help enhance our ability to kind of see how we can be more effective.
Okay, I see that the questionnaires that you're utilizing only are given to people over 18, so I assume we're not surveying students in the schools.
No.
And you're just seeking a letter of support to allow you to work with the Navajo Nation to work with those communities and ask these questions in those communities. Correct? Does anyone else have any questions?
Sorry, and one other thing, the last thing, also to kind of include was that, it won't be within school hours or with the students, but we'd like to kind of, if that's not an issue, if we could set up booths during like out of like school hours, but if there are events that are held within the school, kind of like parent night or something like that, if we could kind of, just like with the other programs and how they do it, it would be in that same manner, if that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, so that would depend on each school and what events they have. We do have prevention nights as well, so that's something we'd have to coordinate individually by each school with the school administrator, just like any other community organization that we would work with.
Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, as she says, that wouldn't necessarily require board approval, but completing this letter, we do need to agree as a board to sign off on this letter. So I appreciate you giving us more information about what that looks like. So, and your attachments are clear about what it is that you're trying to do within the communities as well. Did anyone else have any other comments related to that? Okay, so that is an action item, and we will bring it up later in the meeting. Thank you.
Would you like us to join you during that portion of the agenda?
You can watch it. I don't think it'll be, as I said, I don't feel like we have any questions. I think you covered it well, so We
Okay,
will.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
The next item on the agenda is School Land Trust Amendment. Thank you, Julie, for providing us information relating to that, and the next item as well.
Okay, I'll cover these two. So Blanding Elementary has an amendment. Last month, I brought to you the carryover, and that came to us from the state. And so Bluff, we did go through that one, and this one is for Blanding. So Blanding Elementary chose to create a new goal. It would make most sense for them to have a new goal for this amendment. And their goal is really going to be around that 60% of first through third graders making adequate progress on Acadian's Pathways to Progress, which would tie into reading and English language arts. Their action steps align directly with their expenditures, and they have $14,548 that they are putting towards this amendment. $12,400 of that would go towards leadership coaching sessions, a leadership data analysis session, a half-day in-person session with admin to analyze the end-of-year data, and 2 school leadership team days that are already scheduled in May if this is approved, where the school leadership team can really look at their 90-day plan. They're going to look at current data and prepare resources and action steps necessary to move into the summer, into looking into next year, using their current data for end of year. $1,700 of that would need to go towards a substitute salary to cover those 2 leadership days for teachers to be out of the classroom, and substitute benefits would be $294. That would leave approximately $154. There may be a little bit of carryover from other goals as well that would go towards this, but this is currently written into the plan that any additional funds would go towards STEM enhancement activities in their current goal, number 1. So that is that's the amendment that would take care of their additional carryover, and it worked out perfectly for a need that they had this spring, moving into next summer with their 90-day plan. Any questions on that?
This is the first viewing of that, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
All right.
So,
Okay. This is also an action item as well. So, okay, so moving into the school trust fund compliance review. Last spring, and then again this fall, we mentioned to the board that San Juan School District had been selected for a compliance review year for school land trust, which is it's random selection across the state. They do it to review compliance across the state. So Kara Bennett from the School Children's Trust is our compliance specialist that did our review. She reviewed 22 districts. And of those 22 districts, San Juan School District was in the lowest percentage, which makes us the second highest in the state for the compliance review. So this was a very validating, very meaningful review process for our district, and we are in great standing moving forward with school land trust and compliance. Just to give you a little bit of background of what was covered in that review, there were 3 sample schools that were selected. So Albert R. Lyman Middle School, LaSalle School, and San Juan High were the 3 sample schools. There are 6 compliance categories. So these will sound very familiar to you. They do a plan and final report section, expenditures, council's review of order and procedures, council signature page, and website posting requirements. Those are the areas that they audit and review. The lower the scores you receive in each subcategory and overall categories, the lower the risk. So our district was at 13% overall. The very highest was at 9%. So we were in good standing. The 2 areas that we have been encouraged for corrective action are council, the area of council, and rules of order. And the reason that those 2 really were selected was because council, a couple of things that we just need to double check on, and that we actually trained on in the fall, knowing going into this compliance that there were some new changes that needed to be implemented. But with council, the council section, there is a council exemption. So for some of our smaller schools like LaSalle, where they don't turn over, every 2 years they turn over the council members, and you see a consistent council member as an employee that doesn't turn over, that's because we only have 1 head teacher out there. So some of those things we were showed up as as being non-compliant, but in reality, we could do an exemption and be just fine with how we're doing that. The other thing that we need to be careful of that we will watch is that council members must align with the numbers in state rules. So for high schools, that's 6 parent members. For employees, for everyone other than high schools, it's 4 and 2. So those numbers also need to align with not only what's on their council principles assurance in the fall, but also in their rules of order. That has to align. So that's something that we will watch and make sure. They have also put out with rules of order. The state has put out a template, which was very, very helpful, and we tried to help schools utilize that template this year that gives them all of the parts and pieces that need to be there if they'll follow that template. One of the pieces that we need to ensure is happening is that when someone, that needs to have the process in the rules of order for when someone leaves the council, if they move or just leave the council in general, that there is a process for filling that position, and that has to be stated in the rules of order. So there are a couple of those things that we need to tighten up. As far as all of the other steps, we were in good standing. As far as next steps for compliance, this opportunity to review this with the board is our next step, and then to review it with administrators in a principals meeting, I would assume maybe April. Principals meeting to review this and then provide them the training that they need in those 2 areas with councils and review of order. And then we basically just submit that completion to the state, and that will complete our review. Do you have any questions?
I don't. Do you have any questions?
I'm a visual learner, so
I
if I
know.
could get an attachment, like I took notes on everything that you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
If I could just get that, just so I could
Sure.
retain it that much more better, that would be
Sure.
better for me.
And there is, our compliance document was also.
Yeah,
sent to
I can share
superintendent.
that report. The report is not meant for public viewing, so, but as a school board member, I'm happy to provide that. That's why it wasn't attached on there.
Okay.
But if you'd like to view that, I have a copy right here.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And we have until October 20th of next year to make sure that we're in compliance. I would assume that these things are very simple, and we would probably want to address them sooner and just be done. But there is a date of October 20th to make sure that we're in compliance.
And you don't see any difficulty arising on that? Will be, okay, thank you.
We're in good shape. Most of these things are already being worked on, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you highlighting that because, sometimes people hear we were audited, what did we do wrong? And clearly, there's always room for improvement, but it sounds like we are doing great, at least in what they looked at. So that's good to hear. Thank you. All right, we're back to Superintendent Fitzgerald.
So I'm just bringing an amendment to the TSSA framework. In a previous plan, we had a district educational psychologist put in as part of the plan. That money has carried over, and we'd like to make a change. And it is very difficult to hire an educational psychologist. So, and we've seen some other needs that feedback from principals in the building, special education teachers and paras and supports that we need. You've heard that in a number of our school reports over the year. So the recommendation has come to have a special educational specialist and parent liaison at the district office to support schools and teachers and really being somewhat of an instructional coach in our building. So we're bringing this amendment. It needs to be approved by the board to be able to make this change from educational psychologist to special educational specialist, parent liaison. Do you have any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment that I love the idea of /parent liaison. I think that is a good title for that, and I think that, the people that have been thinking about this and supporting this idea are on the right track. Anything we can do to help parents feel heard. Not that I'm saying that they're always right, because we know that's not always the case. I'm guilty of that myself, or have been in the past. But it's good to feel connected to the people that are trying to serve our students. So, thank you. Does anyone else have comments related to that or questions?
I do not.
I would just have to mirror what you were saying as well, because I think with the parent liaison, we're able to get that much more support with what what we can do for kids within the district, so kudos.
Thank you. All right. Once again, Superintendent
Jump right in.
Fitzgerald, yep.
It's spend plans, and we need to have these approved today, so I hope we have lots of questions so we can clear all of that up. First, I want to say there were some minor changes to spend plans that I'm going to read publicly. They were too late, these changes, to attach to the board docs, but also hopefully this will make it easier when you do make a motion. So let me just go through those. You have a copy of them in front of you, other than Nelson, and I can send those to you, Nelson. The first one is the cross-country for Monument Valley High School. There's been a reduction of the motel fee to just one night for postseason. The next one is cross-country for Whitehorse High School, reduction of motel for postseason to one night. Also cross-country for San Juan High, and a reduction of postseason motels to 2 nights. Volleyball for San Juan High School removed one of the camps. So that total now is $300. Wrestling boys for Whitehorse High School reduced the number of meals to 35 meals to have a total of $490. Wrestling for girls at Whitehorse High School reduced meals to have a total of $392. Whitehorse High School Band added an additional trip to their schedule, so the new amount for meals for travel is $294 and motels $272. Volleyball for Monument Valley High School removed part of the description, and the only fees that are being charged are tournament fees. And those are the recommended changes from the individual schools. I also wanted to highlight as well, there was a recommendation to look at increasing our program sustainability. And so took that data and went back, and it's a little tricky because it's such a small amount. So tried to make them as even, come out even as possible, because really it would be something in change, and we don't want to have to do that, right? So if you look at these, they're as close as we can to that increased rate for the past 2 years, because it's 2 years since we've increased them. So you have a copy of that program sustainability. You can see the strike through for the amount from our current year to what the recommended amounts for each of those program sustainability. And just a reminder that Student Council has been removed and will no longer have a program sustainability fee. And then this also shows the meal rate of $15. And then everything else has been adjusted with program sustainability, as well as the senior graduation caps and gowns going to $50. So I would love to answer any questions, or attempt to answer any questions that you have. Derek is not able to be here today. His wife is having a baby, so we apologize he's not here, but I'll do my best to answer anything you have.
I would just like to say thank you for highlighting that for us. Sometimes there are changes that happen, and it's hard to read through all of this, and also to hear the explanation for that. And kudos to these administrators and coaches that have found a way to make these programs work in as cost-effective a way as possible. I know that's not easy, and oftentimes we are being conservative in the opposite direction, where we propose that we're going to do all of these things just so that we know the possibility of those expenses, but being able to kind of manage that and keep it reasonable.
I think you
really
make
appreciate.
You make a really good point in that this is the max amount allowed. It does not mean this is what the cost will be to a parent. It just is accounting for, any schedule changes that we might need another hotel night or additional meals, anything that could change, as well as when you look at the spend plans, we've aligned that the Spirit Pack, the items that are in that are at a set rate, and it may say on there or. So if they choose a T-shirt, it's going to be less money than if they choose the hoodie. So as you look through that, I hope our community that's listening will understand that this is the max amount that we will charge, but in a lot of cases, it will be less than this. We also try as much as possible to consider your first year in the sport. You may, buy something that you will use throughout your whole experience while participating in that extracurricular. That also might not be sports, but our co-curricular as well, and clubs. So just to make aware of that. And then I did want to make it easier for you as you look at changes that were uploaded. There were some other changes. If you look under executive content, that just highlights those, so you don't have to go through every single thing, but you can see what else was changed from last month to this month.
Well, and another thing that I'd like to note is that we do approve this, but sometimes individual ones do change, and everyone is made aware of that. We do vote on that as well, so. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I would just jump in here and again say also thank you. I know this is a tremendous amount of work. I know start to bottom, it's very difficult to really put your finger on all these, what's going to happen in these programs, but I appreciate it. You know, again, I would say to the parents and everyone involved in here, this is our opportunity to look at these fees and to take a really close look and try to determine, you know, how do we feel about where we're at as far as the expenses, the opportunity, the exposure, the opportunity to compete, and where's that balance between, you know, if you look out and across the state and across even beyond the state, there's teams that are traveling all over the country to play sports and do things, and I guess they're all wrestling where that balance is for them. And this is our discussion to figure out where our balance is. And I know it's difficult, but this is the opportunity, and by law, this is what we go through to do. So I appreciate the input, the work. Just a couple of things to add to that is Mr. Pemberton, as the business administrator, I think we lean pretty hard on you in some areas to really give us some information as far as how do you feel the district's doing, because when we talk about parents and the costs of these fees, the district does provide these fees in a lot of areas, in a very high percentage of our students. So we also need to kind of keep track of, you know, where that's at and how we feel we're doing with those budgets and those resources that we have available. And then as I really like what you've done with the, you know, I do think we have to adjust that program sustainability list and keep on top of that, because if we don't do it a little bit at a time, we will see a gap grow and we'll be forced to do a tremendous amount in one time, overnight. And that's very problematic for our parents and for those that are involved. I would add to that, though, that I think we also got to, and you'll do this through the process of working with athletic directors and coaches and those, but there might be an individual sport that needs less or more than maybe just that regular, let's go 3% or 5% based on inflation. I kind of see that that's happened a little bit with esports. Esports come in and it's, you know, it's jumped very, and I'm assuming that's based on need. And as I read their spend plan, I can see what they're basing that on, so that's helpful. But be in mind that I would think some coaches might come forth at some point and say, hey, I think we're not there in this sport. And we, as a group of coaches across the district, we want to make, you know, we want to point this out and show this data and make sure that our opinion is heard. And anyway, that's this whole process that plays out. So I appreciate the work, and I feel very good about what we have here in front of us. So thank you.
Just a comment too, I like that it's both for sports and the academic portion of it as well, because we want to make things as cost effective for our parents as well as our students who want to participate in both. So I really like that we are able to highlight that, and parents are able to see that we're doing everything we can to make sure that our students can participate in everything. Well, hopefully everything anyways. So thank you for the work.
All right, was there anything else related to that? I hope Nelson's not feeling left out since we can't hear him currently. Just reach out to Mason if there's something you feel like needs to be said, even if it's just in a chat, right? Oh, okay.
Lost him again.
Okay. We'll go ahead and discuss the next item, which is the board meeting change.
Yeah,
day
so,
request.
yes, thank you. So this is just a request to the board that would make my life a little easier and Tyrell and April a little bit easier. We typically have our meetings at St. George, the legislative update meeting, which is a really important meeting for us to attend. It's typically every year been on a Monday and Tuesday, and this year it's on a Thursday and Friday. So it would be extremely challenging to have our April 9th board meeting and travel to St. George that night. We would get there really late. So the request is to move to Tuesday, April 8th in April. Additionally, the annual USSA Superintendent's Conference is June 18th through 20th. So I'm requesting also a change to Tuesday for June. So that would move that from June 18th to June 17th, if the board would consider those two requests.
We're kind of already practicing this Tuesday thing that we have already discussed for next school year, so it'll help us figure out how that works. And speaking of, I almost forgot that today's meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, so it's good for us to.
I had a question
Pay
for
attention
June
to that.
17th. That won't cut into your travel as well for or
It
will
will. It will.
Okay.
Because I'll need to travel up to Midway that night, but
So it'll still be,
it's still a little tricky. But with our budget due dates and how that all works, I think it's probably best for us to have it on Tuesday.
okay.
And I did work with our business administrator on making sure Tuesday would work for his department as well. Because that's an important meeting in June.
And again, in April, you have meetings that you need to attend, and it could be done Wednesday, but it really would be better if we did it Tuesday. Is there any other discussion related to that? Any questions from?
I think hopefully once Lucille and Nelson are able to,
I think we do still have a quorum, so as long as the three of us agree on.
And Lucille will
what
be
we-
here for action
yeah.
Okay.
items.
But I think,
So-
yes, Lucille will be here.
Yes, she is.
Okay.
She is coming.
Okay.
hopefully,
I know the internet's been a little wonky, not here necessarily, but I've had some issues recently, so. All right, I've been trying to avoid this one because you have my name on it. but- The Superintendent Fitzgerald, Colleen Benally, and I and Lucille Cody attended part of it. We attended the USBA Board Leadership Training earlier in February. And it was really good information. Every moment that we were there, every discussion that we were involved in felt absolutely applicable to us. You know, we might be a rural district, but we were able to discuss things that affect all of us and ways that we can be more effective as leaders in our boards. And one of the things that we talked about there was the Master Board certification. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, Colleen. But I know that you did that last year, and it's not a one and done thing. It's something that we can all do every year. There's different
steps to it.
steps to it. You know, they have one part 1 year, and then you can choose to do part 2, or you can start with part 4 and do 1, and yeah, so.
So yeah, I mean, that was one of the biggest things that would have only just to help us as a board to run efficiently as we could. And he said even if we complete the master class and then we can go back and restart over and do it again, because they're always updating and making sure that we have the most updated information or the most effective things that can help us progress through, as well through a board. And it wasn't difficult, so it was just a matter of taking the time and being able to do so. And I'm kind of a nerd like that, so it was definitely a challenge, a nice challenge for me to complete all those. And I definitely learned a lot of things. And one of the things that was reiterated in that was that there's other boards who have difficulty, and I was like, yes, we're not the only one. So learning the processes with open meetings and how that goes too, that was definitely a plus. So the overall experience was great and a great learning experience. So I definitely lean heavily into the master boards as well as all the other presentations that were brought that weekend. So if I make any mistakes, I can refer back to that. So that was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We can move on to.
Well, I have a
Oh,
comment.
yeah,
So
thank you.
you're advocating for that at this time, right? That the board would maybe look at, each board member would look at that and anyway, I just want you to know that I'm very supportive of that. I think we are a new board. I think that, historically, we're a new board, and even, every new board has a new personality, kind of, and a new feel to it, and a new needs, strengths, and weaknesses. So anyway, I think it would be, I very much agree with you that this might be the time to invest in some time in us just really learning our roles and not only just that, but coming together and seeing what exactly the depth of our responsibilities are and working together to accomplish those. I'm on board. So if we make some decisions, or if you'd just like us to look at it individually, I will do that. But if we want to do anything more as a group, concentrated effort, I'm agreeable to that as well.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because another thing that we discussed as a leadership team is that we would like to start focusing on aspects of our board handbook at every board meeting, and just educating each other about how we do things, and also educating the public. This is how our board works. So that's something we want to try to implement in the future as well.
Well, and if I remember correctly, there was an incentive, or it was encouraged for all the boards as well,
Yes.
all the board members within the board to do that too. So that was something that was strongly encouraged, so.
Yeah, they do recognition at the USBA Leadership Conference in January each year for the boards that have participated, and we did get recognized this past year because we had so many that completed the Master Board certification this past year. So, and like you said, that's something looking at, if the board would like to be trained on specific things, some of that role we can take on that as well. So when we're thinking about, in fact, Tyrell and I just recently had a conversation about, really looking at funding and where funding comes from. We know that's something that can be tricky for boards. That's something we'd be willing to, I say we, but Tyrell and myself would be willing to help with anything like that you would like. I mean, some things are mandated, and we've already have that built into our board agendas. Like today, you'll see our open and public meeting training is today to meet that requirement. But other
Yes.
things could be, as you're seeing things that there are needs or things that you would like to see training on, we're happy to help with that as well.
And I think just to add to that, the mission of the whole Master Board certification was building better boards. I mean, that's the mission statement of it overall, and I think that's something that we can all do because we're in transition as a new board leadership, as new board members, in our roles. Again, like they said, in our roles in this. So, I was really intrigued, and so I'm like, and my competitive nature was like, yes, my whole board can do this. Our whole board. So it's correct when Christie's Superintendent Fitzgerald says that it's a we thing, because I think we can accomplish a lot more, and definitely not start from the bottom, but change to how we want this board to move forward.
All right, and I'd like to add a comment from Nelson Yellowman in the chat. He says, here's a hint, today's open meeting training is a start, and he's exactly right. That is part of Better Board leadership training. So, yeah, Master Board certification. Okay, speaking of, that's one of the things on our agenda, but we're going to go ahead and talk about capital stuff first. So, Business Administrator Pemberton.
All right, I'm going to ask Mason to help me out here. So there is a document or a PowerPoint kind of presentation that we'll go through here. This was received this morning, so that's why it's not as an attachment there, but we'll kind of go through just a quick update. This is provided and provided by Westland, our general contractor that's building our elementary school. So I'll ask Mason if you'll just click to the next slide here. Just a reminder, I mean, I think you guys have seen these probably plenty of times, just the renderings of the front and back side of the building. If you go to the next one. They provided this in there just, I guess they think it's probably more interesting than maybe some of us might, but it's just a rendering of what structural steel is inside the building, just to show all of those green elements there that you can see, some of the structural steel that's a part of the building. If you go to the next one. If you'll play that, this was taken what's today, the 4th? This was taken this morning. If you drive by the school right now, you'll actually notice that it already looks different. Even from when they took this morning, with some of the structural steel that they've tied into the gym, it's going up quickly and it progresses on the daily. think we've received more snow since our last school board meeting than we had the previous several months of our winter, but the site's a little bit wet and muddy, but for the most part, no major delays at all on any of the stuff they're working on. If you'll go to the next one for me, Mason. This was taken yesterday, just a picture, and you can even see in the video, like there's some things that are different from what we saw in the video, but just an overall site photo. If you'll jump to the next one. This is the C wing, or the northern wing of the building. You can see that there's some veneer going up on the wing now. If you'll jump to the next one, you can kind of see it there at the bottom of that base, right? Like it's starting to go up, and we're starting to enclose the building. If you'll jump to the next one. And you can see now, it doesn't just look like a big old gray castle or prison or whatever. It's starting to look a little bit more like a school building with some of the things that have happened. This is the gym. And then you've got the main entrance there it's gone up, and we're starting to look and feel like a school more. If you'll jump to the next, do you want to open those? This is another one of the things that they provide us that will be provided to our maintenance staff at the end of the project too. They do these walkthroughs of the building just to show it's a 360 degree view of all these different, this is just some of the snapshots of each of these areas. This is the gymnasium that you can see, but you can kind of pan through and see just what each of those areas is, and they do this drone video walkthrough of the entire building. So this gets provided to our maintenance staff as well, so that like as time goes on, we have this documentation of this is how it was built, this is what's behind the walls. You can see here, with that video of just a typical classroom, kind of like what's behind the sheetrock and everything in the building, just to provide some more additional documentation of how it's being constructed, which is a useful tool for us as we move forward. So anyways, those are some of them. This is the main entryway there that's still going up. That's coming together, but they provided just a few of those snapshots, but they actually have more of the entire building as they walk through with that drone camera to capture everything that's going on. If you'll jump back to the PowerPoint for me, Mason, and go to the next slide. This is just a view of their schedule. We're on pace, on track. Some of the things that have been accomplished, the structural block for the entire building is completed. The structural still, they're saying, is at 95% for today, which is, we're getting really close there. You could see in the video just some of those areas that haven't quite been tied in, but they're getting really close on that. Roofing is ongoing, and then the veneer for the gym portion has been completed on the exterior. So a lot of good things, a lot of progress happening. You can see kind of their schedule that they've updated, and we are on track and looking to have a successful project so we can get moved in without hopefully too many headaches before the school year of 26-27. So any questions on that project?
How excited is the community? It looks really good.
Can't tell you. I can't speak for the community as a whole, so I don't know. My kids are excited.
Yeah, and I can
They're a
say
small portion of the community, but
I have heard from teachers that are elated. They did a tour months ago, and that was before most of this was up, and they're just so excited. Nelson has a question.
I see that there. So to answer Nelson's question, which is what's going to become of the grade on the south of the gym. So on the south there, you can see that there's kind of like a hill that drops off. There is a bit of a drop off to the parking lot there. To get to that portion of the building, there will be an ADA ramp and some stairs that will get up to the actual building. But there will be parking lots. It's not completely finished to grade, so there will be some leveling out of that on the parking lots on the south side of the building. But there will be an ADA ramp to get into the gym from the south side. You can also access the gym from the northeast side, from the parking lot in the front of the building. So yeah, thanks, Mason. You can kind of see there that and that's built up a certain way because of the scaffolding that they had to put to complete the veneer, and it's like I said, it's not completely finished to grade. but there will be some bit of a decline going to the parking lot from the building.
And will that always be the little catch pond there? That'll always be there?
The retention
for
pond will,
Runoff
yeah.
water?
Mhm.
Do we anticipate that that'll gather much water? Would that turn into a pond and at times?
So it is, they've tested it, the geotechnical report for saturation. The reason they expanded this size a little bit was because of this summer, we experienced some of the heaviest rains I've ever seen here in Blanding. And so with that, they expanded it to be able to hold all of that. In working with the city, we'd also, once we see those torrential downpours that just take a lot of rain all at once, and if it were to build up to a pond, there's a release valve gate within the pond that the water can be let down through the normal storm drainage system that the city has. So it's not like we would just be sitting on feet of water. It would be dispersed, but it would hold it during those torrential downpours to not have impact additional flooding, which is according
To
to,
control it a little more?
yep,
the release
controls
of it.
the sewer or the water runoff from everything that comes off of our property, which is a newer requirement according to all the architects that kind of went into place in 2021, that all of these commercial sites have to have a retention.
Is it
pond.
fenced at all? Is it fenced off, or could it possibly be a hazard in any way if it did start to build up 3 to 4 feet of water, 5 feet of water, where somebody decided
So it'll have,
inviting?
it'll has a significant amount of rock that goes down in there. So like you would have the water seeps kind of into that rock that goes underneath and then into the soil below. We're not too concerned about liability. We could fence it, but this is something you see kind of all over the place. Now they showed us some renderings of other schools that have done similar things with big retention ponds, and they'll level them out, and it's not like you just have 6 feet of standing water. So we're not too concerned with that, but great questions.
Anyone
Anything
else?
It's great.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. We do have the Open Public Meetings Act training, but I think we are it's almost time to do our school reports. So if you're good with waiting to do
Oh,
that
absolutely.
after.
I think if we need any time we can give, all of our board members here to get here too is better, so that we can mark that in the minutes.
Yes,
Yep.
that's true. Thank you. Any other comments related to any capital projects or anything? Any questions?
I should also note and mention that the 50% drawings from MHTN for our 2 schools that we're doing for secure vestibule upgrades came out this past weekend. Steve is reviewing currently, and when we come back in April's board meeting, we'll likely have the full drawings for the board to review. So that's ongoing as they're working on getting that up to where we're ready to bid those projects.
Thank you. All right, I think if our principals don't mind, we're ready for you. Heather Amato with TES.
Yeah, Ed, thank you for having me. Do you just want me to go through the slide?
So you are welcome to just kind of highlight what you really want us to focus on. I would say, try to keep it fairly simple. But again, tell us about your celebrations, challenges. Yeah.
So on the first slide, I just have our enrollment numbers. On the day that I gathered this information, we seem to be the same as last year. Our multilingual numbers are going down. And even that, I noticed that even at principals meeting, we've been noticing that across the district. And I don't think it's because students are speaking less Navajo or any other language for that matter. it's simply because parents are opting out to share that information, and I think that's a really big concern. So we're trying to push out information on ways where students and parents will be a little bit more truthful when it comes to the registration process. As far as our goals, I've appreciated all of the PD that the district has supported in helping me as a second-year principal understand the 90-day plan. And so I've put together some information up there that just gives you some of the things that we're focusing on at Tebinza Elementary. This page highlights some of the growth, taking it back to the 90-day goals with Acadians from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year, and then just some of the insight of what we're seeing as far as SPED referrals in our building, and our numbers there continue to grow. As far as progress toward our goals, 95% seems to be having a pretty positive impact on not only our students but our staff, just being well informed about some of the phonics gaps that our community has been facing. And so it's been nice to see not just students grow, but our staff members grow, to work as a team, toward collaboration, creating kind of that safe space and an academic language that can be carried throughout the day, not just during Tier 2 intervention, but like toward when we are talking about Tier 1 instruction. Another goal is just being able to navigate through CKLA. It's a new curriculum that we adopted this year, and so that's been super exciting as well. And we've been, again, building on that communication and collaboration piece, and it's been super stressful at times, but and other times when kids get excited and they're talking about the Renaissance, Michelangelo, and all of the other awesome units that have been going through, like just walking up to you saying random facts, like that's been super rewarding. One of our celebrations I just want to highlight is we've continued to work with other schools, Monticello mostly, and they've helped us to lead out our own data meetings, which happen every month. And that's been nice just to create a space for teachers to come together and talk about some of the highlights, some of the ways to support students on a monthly basis. And it opens up the opportunity for classroom observations, so not just during evaluation time, but I've been able to go into classrooms and with a number of people, the assistant superintendent, the coaches that come down through USBE and West Ed. They've been able to come down and we've been able to have awesome discussions about what our next steps are, and then be very forward thinking when it comes back to our 90-day plan. As far as challenges, the one that I maybe would like to shed a little bit more light on would be strengthening the Navajo culture and language by weaving those thoughts and ideas into our daily curriculum. I know that's been one of the reasons why I started in the education field, and that it always just lingers in the back of my mind of how our students and our community have this amazing culture and language, and how can we keep that a part of what we're talking about every day, even though we bring in teachers from different walks of life, and just helping our local teachers know that they do have a voice, and that the culture needs to be incorporated back into what we're learning and what we're talking about every single day.
Anything else you wanted to share, you're welcome to.
Not really.
Do you feel like well, it sounds like you have the support, you're getting the support that to work on these challenges. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? And I would just like to highlight what you said about this being a challenge. I think in a way it's a celebration that you see this as a challenge to be overcome, and that you believe in that, this idea of keeping the Navajo language and culture in your school community I 100% support you on that personally, but I'm sure others on the board could share their thoughts on that as well. Sorry.
I did like to just say that I can see the growth on your 90-day plan, so that's really encouraging to see. I guess, but I did have a question with Monticello being one of your support systems. I know they've been there to help support you, but has there been anything that were they able to learn something from you? I mean, because I know it goes back and forth, and that would be something interesting that they can take something from you and learn, take it back to Monticello as well.
So just providing the space and allowing me to sit at their table, and I'm going to choose those words just because they really allowed me to like speak my thoughts and first impressions, or like when I look at the data, what I've noticed. A lot of that doesn't happen like during meetings with teachers individually, but afterward when we're kind of doing a debrief, we've noticed the differences and the challenges between students with disabilities. And so we've really opened up that, and I'm sure you recognize, I don't know how many data reports you've seen, but each of our schools is in TSI for students with disabilities. And so just sharing those conversations and bringing to light some of those concerns, some of our strengths, we've really been able to create a system built on the data that was provided within those data meetings. And so I think, again, it's just about the space, and then using that collaboration time and them really saying that, hey, you're invited into our school, whatever you'd like, not just for data meetings, but that we're here for you, like for coaching supports and things like that.
Great, thank you.
It sounds like you were also able to be a support to them in sharing similar challenges.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I appreciate all the things that you've highlighted. It's always, and I feel like, you know, Superintendent Fitzgerald at the beginning shared with us about coaches, and it sounds like that's also one of the things that you utilize quite a bit and has been helpful for your school.
Yes. We've appreciated all the leadership that's come into our building, and just, again, creating those spaces. And anytime we walk through a classroom, they're bringing to light things that I'm not always seeing, and helping me create more of a plan and action steps to be able to tackle that challenge.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Nelson has a question.
All right. Nelson would like me to ask you if you could give us an example of how the community is helping with resources in your school.
So one of the things with our community director, she has been a valuable resource, and it's just right now I haven't been able to tap into all of the resources within my community, but the director of the community center in Monument Valley has provided a college trip to our sixth graders to allow them to be able to do a college campus visit that's guided by Native American students. And so they just kind of share those, it's kind of a mentorship type, I guess, what am I trying to say? So when we go out and visit these schools, we make sure that they are led by Native students who attend the universities. And they are sharing the spaces that they've been able to find connection to overcome the loneliness, and I mean, just being able to be successful at a university. And so my partnership with the community center has opened up that opportunity, and they do an overnight trip where we are very clear with parents that this isn't a school-sponsored event, that she has her own waiver. She provides that information to them. And so there are other things similar to that where they've brought people into our community, and then the students have been able to go over and like our Unity Club has been able to go over and ask questions of like different leaders within the Navajo Nation. Like I believe we had a winter solstice where They talked about the importance of the changing of the season and the different activities you would partake in. And so our students are always open and welcome to come to those events and learn from Native American mentors and peers. And they invite all other schools as well. And so I feel like we always get first priority and like who gets invited to those events. And so it just opens up that sense of community. We're trying to work on bringing back our parent volunteers now that we just want to make sure we're strengthening that system to allow parents to be able to come back into the school. And so far we've had like 1 or 2 parents who have definitely been interested in that, that opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I didn't know if anybody else had something they wanted to share. Okay, we're ready for you.
Thanks for having me. As you can see from the goals we have, the one thing I've always looked back at is you want to get the right people in the right seat, on the right bus going in the right direction. And our coaching cycle has really been phenomenal in achieving goal 1. We start out with this coaching cycle just back in November. And what we do is with our teachers, our Q-tip teachers take and observe our other teachers, and then they have immediate feedback from those teachers. But what we've done this year is we've taken some more teachers that are actually being observed. They're actually joining the Q-tip teacher, and they're observing other teachers. And therefore, we have what we call like an iron sharpens iron, and they're critiquing each other. And we haven't seen a really good model in the years I've been there. This is my 6th year. This has been one of the most effective models I see where it's getting kid engagement very high. And we're seeing good questioning techniques. So I really feel good about goal number 1. And actually goal number 2, they kind of tie together. Our mutual partnership's been solid. We're getting even better at our mutual partnership with our parents and our community and our school personnel. So I feel really positive about the 3 goals we have. And I feel like we've gotten to the achievement level of that. So let's go ahead and go to slide number 2. Everybody knows, I mean, Ron probably knows this, Christy knows this, I have a little pet peeve with the testing cycles we have in Utah. There's no way to longitudinally see growth the way we need to see growth in a 3 through 10th grade level. You can see pieces of it. And I'll give you an example of the piece I'm proud of, and that is when you look at the ELA, when you look at 7th grade in 2023, you're at 11%, either approving their end of year test scores or achieving their test scores. To 8th grade in 2024, you can see at 21%. So that's good longitudinal growth. Doing the same with the 9th grade, you can see the 11.5 to 14%. So when I look at that, I look diagonally to see where we're at with our growth. There is some bad news. We had some areas we didn't grow, as you can see with math. And I'm a math guy, and I don't get it. I taught math here. I don't know why kids hate math so much, but they do. And we do as much as we can to get kids engaged with math and the practice of it. It's just a tough beast. And we also, you got to be careful about this because we also have a bumper group. So you'll see my little spin to the right there. That was a really difficult year from our 9th grade to our 10th grade group. That group was just they're just, I think they skipped a session with that pandemic. It hurt. So, right now we're working on that. We've got a solution to that, and I think it's improving that. You can see the science is the same way. So math and science, we took a dip. That's not normal. We've always had a growth on that piece. So Terry James and I and Marie and Harrison were all talking about why did this happen? And we went to bat on trying to find ways to make that fixed. You can see the overall school average composite ACT score had dropped. We anticipated this. We didn't know how to fix this, but we do have it fixed. And we'll see that result happen this year. So you can see there was a drop in the 18 plus. ACT is that's a tough gig. ACT has 5 sections of the test. And if they aren't practicing that test, and we know through I did a presentation with Heather actually at the El Jato Chapter House a year and a half ago about test anxiety. And last year, the actual board asked me about that. And we've done some really good things to reduce that test anxiety. I'm here to report to you, our kids are doing final exams every quarter, and they're becoming inoculated by it. They're feeling more comfortable with their final exams, which we're hoping will actually impact their ACT scores and not feel stress of taking that test. They have actually, the juniors have already practiced that test now twice. We have an ACT math and ACT English that we're actually practicing, and they're practicing those test-taking strategies as well as taking test anxiety out of that. So we really feel, if you look at the current 11th grade, we got a 57% prediction that they're going to score an 18 plus. So it's the first time we've had in 6 years. I've seen that. That's huge. And this is a very strong junior group. So we're really impressed with that. And what we've done with our 9th and our 10th grade is we've doubled up their math. Okay, so a lot of our kids are taking 2 sections of math now through the ACT math course, as well as a math 1 and math 2. So that's really hopefully going to improve them too. So we've attacked those weaknesses and challenges we face there. If you go to the next slide, you can see the areas where we have grown from 22, 23. We had a dip, as you can see, in 24 with post-secondary readiness, the ACT 18 plus. I am here to report some really cool things. Our post-secondary readiness is going to be off the charts this next year. We have a lot of kids that have passed so many CTE exams that we had not had happen in the past. I reported to the community that we had, I think we had almost 30 kids pass their CTE exams just recently, which is phenomenal. And that's a testimony to the teachers and the kids working at breaking that test anxiety and feeling comfortable doing that testing. So I'm really proud of our teachers in that regard. So we go to progress toward goals. You can see, I just shared with you about how we're doing the coaching cycles. Christy was actually part of that, Superintendent Fitzgerald was part of that cycle with us and was able to give good feedback to us as well as Rachel. And that's what we got to do. We've got to be critically aware of where we're at with what we expect our kids to learn and what they can do. Professional development training with our teachers. We do a Focus Friday, and we work on areas that they need their assistance with. And we also, here's the other piece, we talk to our kids. What are you learning? How do you know you're learning it? And we ask them, when we go into observations, those questions to find out if they're retaining some of the stuff that they're being taught during that time. And some kids are good about it. And some kids are like, oh yeah, I think I learned that. But overall, if we can get kids comfortable to tell us what they've learned, that's a good thing. So we're hoping that piece is going on as well. So we go to celebrations. You guys can read through the celebrations. We've had a lot of good things happen there in Monument Valley. I'm blessed with a great staff, support system there. The district has been very supportive of us with this. We do have 2 major upcoming events I want to share, and that is we're having our Cougar Inspirational Fair. We'll call it a fair, but we've got on March 21st, we have 7 career-oriented Navajo speakers coming in. One's a screenwriter, one's an attorney, one's going to be from the local Ironworkers Union. They're going to come in, and we're doing 6 sessions, and the kids are going to rotate to each session to learn how they got to where they're at. And it's really exciting. The kids are excited about it. Our teachers are excited about it. So that was one piece that I really wanted to focus in on for you. And also I wanted to focus in on, we're going to do a Parent Climate Summit here on April 8th. Is what I'm looking at. On April 6th is what I'm looking at the Ojito Chapter House, going and presenting to them. That way they can see what we have here. So you guys can read through the celebrations, challenges. It's the achievement. We got growth. We're seeing the growth. We just aren't there on the achievement. I'm hoping that through this year, what we've done, we're going to see achievement now. And that's what we're kind of seeing with our final exams and our ACT practice test. And it was really cool the other day when we did our practice ACT test. We can't see it as administrators, but the kids had their phone results. And they're looking at it on their phones, and they're comparing scores with each other. So you know it's important to them. And that's what we've hoped to gotten through to them in that regard. And then the other thing is attendance. Like Heather knows, we have a challenge with attendance. And it's typically 10 to 15% of our students with the attendance issue. And we continue to meet over and over with some parents. So that's a challenge. And then you see the picture highlights. We had our first Rumble in the Valley, seven female wrestlers. We actually had One of our female wrestlers placed third in the state, which is phenomenal. So we've had a lot of good things happen over this year I'm really excited about, and I'm proud of our staff, our faculty, our community. It's been a phenomenal year, so that's it for me. Questions you might have me?
Tell us more about this Parent Climate Summit that you're.
Okay, based on the Utah Navajo Commission, I believe, when we met back in October, we had gotten some questions about how can we give more information about our procedures that we do, and even our things that we're doing in our school. So, for instance, when I attended that meeting with Superintendent Fitzgerald and Derek, we noticed that they didn't know anything about CTE. 20 years ago, these programs weren't in place. So it's really about giving them a financial perspective of where we're at. It's also to tell them all the different programs that we do have operating at this time at a high level. It's going to talk to them about academics. It's going to invite them as volunteers. If anybody would like to come in and volunteer with us, please. We're open to that. Just see me, email me, let me know. Right now for this summit, I have about 14 or 15 parents who could be part of it that requested the time with me. So it'll be a half day. It starts at noon. We're going to do a little entry with them. And at 12:30, we'll have lunch. And after lunch, we're going to go through and do a tour of the building, showing the hydroponics labs, all the different CTE programs we have, drones, robotics, and so on. And then we're going to go through all the different pieces of what does it take to be a successful school, and ask for help. If you want to help, please come in. We're welcoming that. Open arms. Okay, so I can send you guys the agenda I have built.
Oh, sure. Yes,
Absolutely,
thank you.
I'll send it to all of you. Other questions?
Okay, Nelson Yeoman did have a question. Actually, a comment first. And he wants, I don't know if you can see that, but I will go ahead and read it. First of all, I want to thank you for the many years you have been teaching and for your principalship at MVHS. It's good to hear the predictions are going to be met. And as for challenges are not easy. One last question. What would you like our MVHS students to become in the future?
Just proud of who they are and where they can get to. There is so much potential with our kids. We have kids that are doing some incredible artwork. We have some kids that are doing some incredible welding projects, auto work. We've got kids that have so many talents, and we just want them to be prepared, to be ready to be able to go out to the world and come back and serve. It would be awesome in fact, I'll give you an example. We got a student just asked me for reference. He's going to be an engineer. He's out of USU. And that would be great if he came back and helped here on the res. Again, just recognize this is your home. How can we come back and help our own community?
I would like to make a comment that I think one of the things that you forgot to put on your celebrations is that you have student-led activities happening now at your school. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah.
That you have students coming to you and saying, I want this program here.
Absolutely.
And they are helping to make that happen.
Our student council is operating at a high level, and they're the ones that actually put together the Cougar Inspirational Fair. And they're the ones trying to get, the PBR guy, Kintor Whitehorse, to come and speak to our kids. So they're putting that together. And it is true, yeah, absolutely. And I'm proud of the kids in that part.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your part in that as well. Any other comments or questions?
I had a question. I know one of the biggest things that everyone says is parent involvement. So are you anticipating a lot of parents coming to your climate conference, or is this a chance where you're able to say, hey, I need you. This is where you need to come in at, and maybe we can solve these issues here and now while we have the time and space to do so?
We're looking at starting with just 25 parents.
Okay.
And they're reaching out because we want a core group. And from that core group, we hope it'll domino effect because we want that leadership to build out.
Right.
So we want to build this 25, I'd say between 25 and 30 parents right now. We've got Donnie Mose and some others from our SEC recruiting parents to come out for this. So yeah, I think the road right now is take one step at a time. Let's get a core group to buy in. Once we get them to buy in, then let's get them leadership abilities to go out and actually help our community come back and what can we do to do.
Right.
and with our work. So that's where we're starting with it. I don't know if I want to get 100 parents in there yet. It's our first year trying to do this summit because you're going to get so many diverse opinions, but if we can get a core group to understand the big picture, that's what we're hoping for.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because I attended Whitehorse High School's
Yeah.
Parent Climate Conference, and I think that's such a success. Whether the group is small or big, I don't know how much Kim would appreciate 100 parents showing up for it, but I mean, that's eventually the goal. So I wish you luck in that, and I'm excited for that. 'Cause
Yeah, I am too.
I think that makes a major play with it when the parent is able to see what their student is going through, as well as the student seeing what their parent will support with that, as well as the school overall. So, thank you.
Well, don't get me wrong, I won't turn a parent down. If a parent shows up, you're in. Okay, that's not a problem. We're just setting the core numbers around 25 right now.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Just a quick comment. I'd like to just express appreciation to both Principal Amato and Principal Gandy for tremendous commitment and dedication to the students in the community of Miami Valley. Thank you for what you do and appreciated your reports.
Welcome, Lucille. We're glad to have you here as well.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, and I do see that we have Nelson still here, so let's go ahead and go back to that open meetings.
Okay,
Training.
yep. So this is, we have a couple of options with Open and Public Meetings Act training. One is that you all individually do it and on your own time somewhere else. The other option is that we do it in a public meeting where everyone's present and we are able to use the training that's provided by the State Auditor's Office. And so I think that that we're all okay to just take a few minutes and pull out some popcorn and watch a video real quick. And so Mason, if you'll pull that video up for us, we'll go ahead and watch this, and then this will be reflected in the March board meetings minutes so that it meets our requirement that we have received this training from the State Auditor's Office.
So what is the Open and Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. We focus on local government, not state requirements. When in doubt, read the law and consult with your legal counsel. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a public body quorum, also known as a simple majority, meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget, imposes or increases taxes or fees, or transfers money from an enterprise fund. These meetings have extra notice and posting requirements and won't be addressed in this video. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. OPMA adds additional requirements too. An emergency meeting may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and a governing body majority approves the meeting. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, collective bargaining, litigation, certain real property transactions, including any form of a water right or water shares with specific restrictions, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information per the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. A closed meeting may be held only if a quorum is present and the meeting was properly noticed. 2/3 of the governing body present at the meeting need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members present at the meeting. If 3 out of 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%. which is not equal or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short and would need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment, or take a vote, unless it's a vote on a motion to end the closed portion of the meeting and return to an open meeting. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, or several other exceptions, mostly related to state bodies or project entities, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made, which includes date, time, and place of the meeting, names of members present and absent, and names of all others, except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. Regular open and public meetings require 24 hours notice. The public notice includes the meeting agenda, date, time, and place. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Additionally, entities holding regular meetings scheduled in advance over the course of the year need to provide annual notice of the entire year's meeting schedule. The notice must include date, time, and place for each meeting.
Notice is posted on the public body's website, in a public location such as the location where the meeting will be held, and on Utah's public notice website in accordance with Utah Code 63G-30-102.
Typically, posting on the public notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website, archives.utah.gov. Written minutes and a recording are kept of all open meetings, with few exceptions. Written minutes include the date, time, and place of the meeting, the names of members present and absent, the substance of all matters, names of citizens providing comments, the substance of the comments provided, any information a body member requests be entered into the minutes or recording, and a record by individual member of each vote taken. A body with elected members must record each vote in list format by category for each action taken by a member, including yes votes, no votes, and absent members next to each member's name. A recording must be a complete and unedited record of all open portions of the meeting from beginning to end, and be labeled with the meeting date, time, and place. All or any part of an open meeting may be independently recorded by any person in attendance if the recording does not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Pending minutes means written minutes of an open meeting in draft form subject to change before being approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that the minutes are subject to change until the public body approves them. Approved minutes means written minutes of an open meeting approved by the public body that held the open meeting. Entities must establish and implement procedures for the public body's approval of written minutes. Public meeting pending minutes, approved minutes, and recordings are public records under grandma. Any individual who publicly presents information relating to an item on the public body's meeting agenda must provide a copy of the information for inclusion in the public record. Make pending minutes available to the public within 30 days. Within 3 business days after approving written minutes of an open meeting, make approved minutes and any public materials available at the Utah Public Notice website, the entity's primary office, and the entity's website. Within 3 business days after holding an open meeting, make an audio recording of the open meeting available to the public for listening.
Savings you just can't beat.
And then we get Liberty. No, that is the extent of the state auditor's training, and I guess I'll turn it to board president if there's any discussion amongst the board.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions or comments related to that?
I do.
I don't think I do either, but it's always good to revisit that, just, even when we think we know something, it's always good to be reminded.
Do we have to sign anything, or is there anything signed?
Just the fact that we are here.
Nope, so it will be noted in the minutes of who's in attendance. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, which to your point, board president, that's why it is a required annual training. No matter how many times or years you sit on the board, like you'll receive
Yeah,
the same or similar training every year.
thank you. All right. Yeah, I think we have time to go into closed session, and as far as I'm aware, the thing that we need to talk about is personnel, so.
Do we still have another one for purchase, exchange, or lease real property?
Okay, so we have 2 things that we could go into closed session, and we have agreed in the past that what we do is we go in and out for each thing, so I'll just need a motion regarding.
I'll make a motion that we'll go into closed session for personnel matters.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Ron Nielsen, yes.
Lucille Cody, yes.
William Benally, yes. Nan Barton, yes. Do we still have Nelson? You might need to ask him if he's. Okay, we've got Nelson Yellman, yes, so we are going to go into closed session at this time for personnel. Break for dinner, and then we will resume with our agenda at 6. And so if I could get Jennifer Johnson to come up. We want to recognize you, and then after that, we will recognize Bernie Hatch.
Right up here, Jennifer.
Jennifer loves it.
All do. Yeah. She's campaigning for it. All right, I want to hand you that. It's your cute little award, and this is awarded to Jennifer Johnson, accountant, district-wide. And Amanda Page says, Jennifer is so patient and knows so much. Wow, she does. I appreciate her help and smiling face. And I will second that. And then somebody that chose not to be named says, Jennifer quietly and diligently gets it done. She is compassionate and works hard to ensure all things fiscal are taken care of for all departments in our district. She is dependable, steady, and always willing to help, even when she may be overwhelmed or working on daunting tasks of her own. She is patient and kind when helping or teaching others about fiscal processes. She brings a wealth of knowledge to our district, and we are so glad we have her. Oh, well, you get it, right? And then Tyrell Pemberton says, managing $50+ million isn't easy, but Jennifer helps account for every dollar. Between preparing budget documents, ensuring compliance for audits, recording revenues, submitting grant reimbursements, or answering the many questions that come her way, she is always busy helping this district run smoothly. Jennifer is always willing to help solve the many problems that seem to be never ending. Her wealth of knowledge and background is an enormous asset to all those who work with her. The business office and the entire district is lucky to have Jennifer on our team. Thank you for all you do, Jennifer.
All right, Vernon. All right, Vernon Hatch. Vernon is a great asset to San Juan School District. He is available not only to help students, but is also a great resource and support to the educators of the district. Thanks for all you do to make San Juan School District a great place for students and educators alike. Nominated by Carrie Pugh. Vernon is like the amazing Oz behind the curtain. He shares his expertise on how to handle difficult student situations with teachers, staff, and administrators. He can handle the most difficult behaviors with calmness and insightfulness. I have seen students dramatically change in a short amount of time because of their work with Vernon. He also provides training even with his busy caseload. We appreciate all he does behind the scenes. Nominated by Anonymous. So we very much appreciate Vernon
Thank you so much.
There was a word that had the wrong letter, like. Of course it's gonna be Vernon's.
Okay, this is the public comment portion of the meeting, and I don't think we have anything. So we will go ahead and move on. Just going to ask the board, would you like to go into closed session for discussion of purchase or exchange of real property, or would you like to talk about approve the consent agenda at this time?
Is there any reason we could put the closed session to the very end so we don't?
There's no reason why we couldn't do that.
Let's do that, and that way people
Okay.
don't have to.
Can I just make a comment about the consent agenda? So there's an error on Whitehorse High School's activity report. The trip to the can't I say this right? The cross-country team trip that's on there for July for camp should be removed. So they are not attending that camp. So I just want to provide some clarity with that. That should be off of there.
Okay, so when we approve that, do we need to say with the adjustment? Okay, so I'm gonna.
I'm sorry, is that on the paper one or the one on?
No, it's the
Okay.
activity.
It's part of when we approve the consent agenda.
Right.
When someone makes a motion to approve it, you're going to need to say with the amendment of the change to,
I'll try to do that.
okay?
Say, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of approving the trip on the White Horse Cross Country for their summer cross-country camp to Logan would not be approved. Does that cover it?
Okay.
Second.
All right, we got a second from Lucille. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I forgot to say, and then we've got Nelson, I forgot to say, was there any other discussion on that? So I think we're good, but I wanted to make sure that I covered that part of it, so. Okay. Did you get my eye? Yes, we did get your eye. Thank you, Nelson. We'll go ahead and move on to action items, and the first thing on there is regarding the letter of support for the community needs assessment. Do we have any discussion on that? Yeah, so Okay, we just need a motion regarding that.
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of support, community needs assessment, USU SNAP Ed program.
Second.
All right, and attached to that is the wording of that letter that we will be signing. So, is there any discussion related to that at this time?
I did have a question. Is it necessary if they're going to reach out to each school to set a table at or wherever event they may?
Yeah, I mean, we work with community partners already, so that's separate than this. This is just for the letter to submit to Navajo Nation IRB, because they are requiring that for them to
Okay.
get this approved to be able to move forward with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Superintendent Fitzgerald. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I think it passed. And Nelson also said aye, in case you didn't hear that. Okay. The next portion is the change to the TSSA framework, or the amendment to the TSSA framework.
I'll make a motion to approve the TSSA framework amendment.
Second.
Should we say for the 2025, 2026?
For the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, and Lucille seconded that. Just note that that is changing the, rather than hiring a full-time psychologist, we're going to hire, what was the wording on that?
Specialist.
Special education specialist / parent liaison. So, do we have any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Nelson, go ahead.
I had a question for Superintendent. Is what an example as how the parents will be involved with this?
Yeah, so, I mean, what will happen, and Paul can jump in if he'd like, because we've been working on this together. It's really thinking about, we have a lot of parent meetings where parents need additional support past just the IEP team meeting. So, I mean, those IEP team meetings are already functioning with the team, but this is kind of when a parent kind of hits a roadblock, or they feel like they're not getting an answer to something that they need, or they're not understanding something. They just need some additional support. So initially, how we'll roll this out is to say, you know, a lot of those meetings that we're having, that other members of our special education department are attending from the district office, they would help with that. We also had some thoughts about, you know, some other opportunities where they could come in. You know, maybe when we have a student, if they have a hearing and they have an IEP, that they could come in and, you know, be a parent liaison and help explain the process so that parents understand, you know, that type of process for whatever those situations are. So they could jump in on any of that. And I think it changes a little bit when you have someone who is a parent liaison versus an administrator. I think parents feel more comfortable with that than just, you know, an administrator. But Paul, please add your
I was just going to
thoughts
add that it'll be really important to have them coach special education teachers on how to communicate really clearly with parents and provide the process and the steps that are happening and what's going on there. So really helping to smooth some of those things over and make it more clear for parents as needed.
And it's not specific to IEP, just IEP students, right? Is that, it's completely.
Well, this really is through the special education department. So, I mean, it could be a student who doesn't have an IEP, but we might be considering for an IEP or even a 504. So really thinking about those students who need those additional needs. And part of the reason, you know, we're proposing this as well is thinking that 7 of our schools have a TSI for students with disabilities. So, you know, when we think about our administrators and the support that they need in general, this position can help support that. And our administrators are asking for additional support. You know, we have so many schools that are struggling with helping those students achieve.
I think that you've said it very well. Thank you.
Nelson, did you have any other questions, or did that answer what you had?
No, I don't, but I do thank for the explanation.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we all understand the motion and the second, so at this time we'll take a vote to, all in favor to approve the TSSA framework amendment.
Aye.
Aye.
In favor?
Okay, so I don't think there's anyone opposed. Now we're on to a couple of big ones. The 2025-26 fee waiver policy and fundraising, spend plans and fee schedule.
You wanna?
Go for it.
I'll take a stab at it. So I would make a motion that we approve the San Juan School District Policy 6130 and 1145. And we also approve the spend plans as presented tonight, all in their most recent form that has been presented to us.
And the fee schedule.
And the proposed fee schedule as well for the 2025-26 school year.
Second.
Okay. And I'm not going to repeat that, but I hope you all heard and understood it.
He was great at that.
Yes. Any discussion on that? I think we covered it well, but all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
In favor?
Okay. I'll just say it because any opposed? Okay. The next thing is regarding the board meeting date change. Changes, more than one. And if you look at the agenda, there is a recommended way to say that, to help you out there.
Under the recommended action.
Yes.
I move to change the April 9th board meeting to April 8th and the June 18th board meeting to June 17th, 2025.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
In favor?
Okay, any opposed? All right, the next item.
Number 5?
Number 5, the 2025-2026 provisional contract renewal. Can I get a motion related to that?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed provisional contract renewals for the school year of 2025-2026.
Second.
Okay, any discussion related to that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
In favor?
Okay, any opposed? All right, you got that. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the information items now.
Next board meeting now, make note, it will not be April 9th, it will be April 8th on Tuesday, here at the district office and virtual. Spring break is coming up next week, March 10th through 14th with no school, and then the Monday we come back, March 17th, will be a teacher work day, so no students will be in the building. And then our USBA regional meeting is here in the San Juan School District Boardroom on March 26th at 6 p.m.
Thank you. And we do still need to have a closed session to discuss the exchange or lease of real property. And I would recommend that whoever makes the motion also move that we close, adjourn the meeting after that closed session. So. Do you understand? Okay.
I make a motion to move to closed session for purchase, exchange, and lease of property, as well as adjourn after closed session.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Nelson seconded that. All right, so I just need a roll call.
Ron Nielsen, yes.
Lucille Cody, yes.
Chloe Manelli, yes.
Nan Barton, yes?
Nelson Yellowman, yes.
Okay, at this time, we are going into closed session, and then the meeting will be adjourned after that. So thank you all for attending.